United Kingdom. Land of green pastures. Land of ancient villages. Land of castles and wild coasts. Shy rays of sunlight pierce through the English countryside. A light mist envelops old castles. The sea beats relentlessly against the coast. Welcome to the United Kingdom. Welcome to a state composed of 4 different nations. Known for its often rainy weather, this is a place where the sea is never far away, where each nation jealously guards its own identity, where the sound of ancient languages still echoes among valleys and mountains. But let's start from the beginning. The United Kingdom consists of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, each with its own traditions, languages, and even different banknotes. Here there isn't a single capital that dominates overall, but rather each nation has its own. London watches over England. Edinburgh guards Scotland. Cardiff protects Wales. And Belfast looks over Northern Ireland. This archipelago lives under the influence of an oceanic climate, usually cool, humid, and unstable year-round, where light rains are frequent and often unpredictable, shaping the green and often moody landscapes. The highest mountains, like the majestic Ben Nevis in Scotland, are modest compared to neighboring European giants. But the landscape is, on the contrary, extremely varied. You go from Scotland's endless moors to the numerous lakes of the Lake District, and every corner tells a different story. But it's the coast that truly defines these nations. Extremely long and jagged, with hundreds of bays, cliffs like the iconic White Cliffs of Dover, and peninsulas that stretch toward the ocean, it offers ideal landscapes for hiking and water sports. In the United Kingdom, in fact, you can never be more than 75 miles or 120 kilometers from the coast, a proximity that explains why the sea and fish are so deeply rooted in the culinary culture of these lands. In this maritime setting, furthermore, a very strong sense of local identity manifests. Scots, Welsh, and Northern Irish hold their own culture, flag, music, and sports very dear, fueling a rivalry with England that is historic and often friendly, but not always. Even the spoken language isn't just English. In fact, Welsh, Scottish Gaelic, Irish, Cornish, and other local dialects still resonate, some officially protected as living treasures of an invaluable cultural heritage. Continuing, scattered throughout the territory, over 47,000 pubs dot the urban and rural landscape, often representing the beating heart of local community life. And while history flows through the walls of these pubs, the tradition of afternoon tea doesn't remain just a tourist cliché, but rather continues to mark daily rhythm, with 165 million cups drunk every day throughout the country, in a ritual that unites social classes and different generations. The United Kingdom, therefore, is much more than a simple state. It's a mosaic of nations, a place that continues to tell its complex story to anyone who has eyes to see and heart to feel. But now, let's discover the most incredible and iconic places of this land. Isle of Skye. Where Scotland meets the Atlantic, rises an island that seems to emerge from a Celtic dream. Skye, the largest of the Inner Hebrides, is a world unto itself, made of mountains that challenge the sky and coasts that shatter into 1,000 pieces against the waves. The wind seems to whisper ancient stories as you head toward Nice Point, the westernmost promontory of the island. Here, the land plunges into the ocean with a breathtaking drama. The White Lighthouse, solitary since 1909, watches over vertiginous cliffs where puffins and seagulls nest. There is also the Old Man of Storr, which rises with its rocky pinnacles that seem like giants' fingers pointed toward the sky. While in the fairy pools, crystalline waterfalls flow among the rocks, creating natural pools where, according to legend, the Highland fairies still bathe. Every valley hides ruined castles and lakes, where a perpetually changing sky is reflected. Skye is not just a place, it is an emotion that carves itself into memory forever. London. Imagine a city where past and future look each other in the eyes every morning. On one side, Tower Bridge, on the other, the Shard piercing the clouds. This is London, a city where every corner tells a different story. And the incredible thing, the treasures of the British Museum, the masterpieces of the National Gallery, the shows of the West End, everything within reach. Just walk along the Thames and magic reveals itself step by step. But when the noise becomes too much here, Hyde Park and Regent's Park welcome you. As if the city knew exactly when you need silence. And then there's the Tube, the world's oldest, that takes you anywhere in minutes. To Borough Market, for example, to taste the world. or to Camden to hear music you didn't know, or again to Shoreditch to get lost in street art. This is London's secret. It's not a city, but it's an entire world that's just waiting for you. Giant's Causeway. The north coast of Northern Ireland guards a geological enigma that defies logic. 40,000 basalt columns emerge from the sea, like the keys of a primordial piano. They're perfect hexagonal formations, created not by human hands, but by an ancient volcanic eruption, followed by the rapid cooling of lava. Local tradition tells a different story, of an Irish giant who built this road to reach Scotland and challenge his rival. Here the light changes throughout the day, transforming the landscape from gray to gold, from blue to green, and Atlantic waves crash ceaselessly against the columns in a confrontation that has lasted for 60 million years. Tourists jump from one column to another, while science and folklore dance together, leaving observers in doubt about what to believe. Snowdonia. The mountains rise like giants while fog moves between the oldest valleys in Europe. Here, Mount Snowdon towers at 1,085 meters, conquerable through trails that wind between crystalline lakes and pastures, where sheep dot the landscape. Green expanses alternate with oak forests, where moss covers the boulders, and the undergrowth smells of wet ferns, while beaches extend at the foot of medieval castles, perched on rocky promontories. In Welsh, this place means land of eagles. And even today, these wild landscapes preserve that primordial majesty. The rocks date back 500 million years, when all this was ocean floor. Every stone, therefore, is a chapter of geology that you can touch with your own hands, while the wind carries the echo of Celtic legends that still today make the hearts of local inhabitants beat. Lake District. In the heart of northern England hides the landscape that changed poetry forever. Welcome to the Lake District, where nature becomes art. Glaciers have sculpted perfect valleys here, setting lakes that reflect mountains like mirrors, and every view is a natural painting. Here, William Wordsworth found the inspiration that revolutionized literature and transformed these paths into verses that still today move the world. Today, millions of people come to seek what the poets found, and that is peace. Paths that wind among hills, or silent lakes where time stops. But this paradise is also a refuge for wildlife, with rare species that here find home, protected by the same beauty that enchants visitors. The Lake District isn't just nature, it's poetry that breathes. Edinburgh. The Scottish capital is a city that strikes at first glance. Edinburgh rises on 7 volcanic hills, and every corner tells centuries of history. The center divides into 2 completely different parts: the medieval Old Town, with the castle that dominates from atop its rock, and the 18th century New Town, with straight and elegant streets that seem drawn with a ruler. The Royal Mile is the most famous street. It connects the castle, which seems to emerge directly from the rock, to Holyrood House Palace through a kilometer of cobblestones and history. Edinburgh's architecture tells 2 different eras. In the Old Town, the buildings rise up to 14 floors, true medieval skyscrapers, built in dark stone. In the New Town instead, Georgian houses of golden sandstone dominate, with their symmetrical facades and colored doors that create postcard-worthy views. But to truly understand Edinburgh, you must climb Arthur's Seat, the ancient volcano 251 meters high that watches over the capital. From its summit, you see the entire city spread below, with the North Sea shining on the horizon. This is perhaps the most beautiful view in Scotland. Stonehenge. Stop. Breathe. Before you rises one of humanity's oldest mysteries. 33 blocks of sandstone, some up to 9 meters tall, arranged in a perfect circle that defies all logic. How did Neolithic peoples, 5,000 years ago, manage to transport 50-ton boulders for hundreds of kilometers without wheels or machines? The smaller blue stones come from Wales, 240 kilometers away, with an impossible journey that becomes even more mysterious. Archaeologists think Stonehenge was a giant astronomical calendar. Indeed, during summer solstice, the sun rises exactly in line with the heelstone. Around the monument, furthermore, extends Salisbury Plain, dotted with burial mounds and earth circles that tell of a lost civilization. Stonehenge, therefore, is a place that doesn't give answers, but rather poses eternal questions that resonate in the wind. Loch Ness. In the depths of this 37-kilometer-long lake, something moves. Or at least so millions of people want to believe, who for decades have scanned its dark waters, hoping to glimpse Nessie, the world's most famous monster. But beyond the myth, this glacial lake in the Highlands hides a wild beauty that needs no legendary creatures to enchant. Its shores are embraced by pine forests, where the calls of red deer resonate, while ancient castles like Urquhart emerge from the morning mist, almost like ghosts. The lake, furthermore, contains more water than all English and Welsh lakes combined, and it is precisely this vastness, perhaps, that makes any mystery believable. The waters, in fact, reach 230 meters in depth, creating an underwater world still largely unexplored. But whether you believe in the monster Nessie or not, one thing is certain. Here, nature has created a spectacle that surpasses any fantasy. Here, every ripple of water can ignite the imagination and bring back childhood. Bath. Now you're about to enter a time machine perfectly functioning. The Romans already knew that this city would be special. Indeed, they built baths that still today leave you speechless, creating the first wellness center in British history. Every stone tells of when this was the most elegant corner of the empire, with water that springs hot for 2,000 years, unchanged. Above the baths, Bath Abbey watches with its Gothic facade, almost like a guardian protecting underground secrets. But the real spectacle is the Royal Crescent. That is 30 Georgian houses that curve in a perfect embrace. It's not architecture, but it's poetry of stone. A unique example of how man can create beauty without ruining nature. Bath isn't a city, but it's a work of art that can be inhabited. Caernarfon Castle. Witness to 700 years of history, this castle is the symbol of royal power in the heart of Wales. The polygonal walls, inspired by the fortifications of Constantinople, rise from the shores of Menai Strait like stone giants. Here, the first English Prince of Wales was born in 1284, while in 1969 Prince Charles was invested with the title of Prince in a worldwide ceremony. The castle's polygonal towers soar to approximately 25 meters, characterized by distinctive alternating bands of light limestone and dark sandstone. The walled town, furthermore, preserves much of its medieval walls, and walking on the ramparts means following in the footsteps of sentries who for centuries scanned the horizon. During summer festivals, the castle hosts medieval-themed shows and historical reenactments, featuring traditional Welsh music performances and demonstrations of ancient crafts. Cornwall. At the extreme border of England, where land meets the Atlantic, exists a world apart. Cornwall isn't just a peninsula, but it's a realm of living legends. Cliffs shatter into 1,000 pieces, creating beaches that seem painted, while fishing villages hide in inlets, like secrets guarded by the sea. But this land breathes ancient magic. At Tintagel Castle, for example, King Arthur isn't just a legend, it's home, and every stone recalls stories of knights. And then there's a miracle of nature, with palms growing in England and subtropical gardens that defy geography. The climate here has its own rules. But the real masterpiece? The Eden Project. Two giant biospheres that guard rainforests a few kilometers from the ocean. Because in Cornwall, even the impossible finds home. Eilean Donan Castle. On a rocky islet where three lochs meet, rises Scotland's most photographed castle. Eilean Donan seems to float on the water, connected to the mainland by a stone bridge that appears and disappears with the tides. Built in the 13th century to defend against Viking raids, this manor has lived through sieges, betrayals, and destructions. In 1719, it was razed to the ground after hosting Spanish soldiers in revolt against the British government, and for 2 centuries it remained in ruins, until a lieutenant colonel of the McRae family rebuilt it stone by stone, following the original plans. The result is an architectural jewel that has served as backdrop for several films, although no director can compete with the natural spectacles that succeed each other here. In fact, there are northern lights visible from the towers, mists that wrap the castle like fairy mantles, and sunsets that set the loch on fire, transforming it into gold. Eilean Donan, therefore, is true Scotland that becomes poetry. Cardiff. The Welsh capital pulses with contemporary energy without forgetting its Celtic roots. Cardiff Bay, transformed from industrial port into a cutting-edge recreational area, hosts the Wales Millennium Centre, which is a golden giant of steel and slate that reflects the light of the sea. The castle instead hides 2,000 years of stratified history, from Roman foundations to opulent Victorian rooms, with decorations and frescoes that tell Arthurian legends. And then there's the National Museum, which houses one of the most important Impressionist art collections in Europe, while the university animates the city center with thousands of students who fill pubs and cafes in various neighborhoods. Cardiff is the only European capital where you'll hear speaking and singing in two languages on the street, both Welsh and English, which here intertwine in all daily conversations. York. Enter York, and the Middle Ages welcome you with open arms. Here, 2,000 years of history literally surround you, with Roman walls still protecting the city's heart. At the center of everything rises York Minster, a Gothic cathedral so majestic it seems to challenge the sky, with its colored glass dividing light into countless colors. Then you can visit the Shambles, which is a medieval street so perfect it looks like a movie set. But this isn't fiction, rather it's the authentic Middle Ages, still pulsing with life, among artisan shops and historic cafes. And when you think you've seen everything, York surprises you with ancient music festivals, literary events, and shows that transform the city. York is a place where past and present walk together, and where every street tells a story, and every story makes you fall more in love. Glencoe. Imagine a valley where time seems to have stopped in the 13th century. Glencoe opens before you like a wound in the earth, carved by glaciers and bathed in the blood of history. Here in 1692, one of Scotland's most infamous massacres occurred. The Campbells treacherously slaughtered the MacDonalds who had hosted them, violating the sacred laws of Highland hospitality. But Glencoe is much more than a tragedy. Its mountains rise like guardians, with the Three Sisters, which are three enormous rocky peaks that dominate the valley. Every curve of the road reveals breathtaking panoramas, with waterfalls that plunge from vertical walls, heather that turns purple in summer, and lakes that reflect an ever-changing sky. And then when the mist descends from the peaks and envelops the valley, you understand why this place has inspired legends and nightmares. Glencoe is not just a destination, but an experience that leaves you with the awareness of having walked in history itself. Jurassic Coast. Imagine walking through 185 million years in 155 kilometers. Welcome to the Jurassic Coast, one of the most beautiful coasts in the world. From Devon to Dorset, this coast tells a secret story of our planet. Indeed, layer by layer, the cliffs reveal the chapters of Earth's evolution. If you look carefully at those multicolored rocks, they're like pages of a book written by Earth itself. Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, geological epochs that you can touch with your own hands. And among those stones hide fossils of creatures that populated oceans now lost, with every storm revealing new secrets and new imprints of the past. Furthermore, walking on coastal paths, you can easily understand why UNESCO protected this place, which isn't just a coast, but a natural library where the history of life is written forever. Brecon beacons. In the heart of southern Wales extends a world made of gentle hills and spectacular waterfalls. The Brecon beacons take their name from the fires that once lit on the peaks to communicate at distance. Today, however, these natural beacons guide trekking lovers, while at night the Milky Way lights up above explorers' heads like a river of stars. The Four Waterfalls Trail leads into a natural amphitheater, where water falls thunderously among Jurassic ferns, creating rainbows in the mist. Caernarfon, finally, the highest peak at 886 meters, offers views that span to the sea, so that on clear days you can see up to 3 different counties. Oxford. Welcome to the Temple of Knowledge. Here for 900 years, the world elite has been formed. And you just need to walk among medieval colleges to immediately understand why. Silent courtyards and Gothic spires that challenge the sky. This is the landscape where ideas that change the world are born. Inside the Bodleian Library sleep millions of secrets, with books and manuscripts that are just waiting to be discovered. And then look up, and here's the Radcliffe camera, with that dome that everyone photographs, but few truly observe. But Oxford doesn't live only in the past. In its laboratories, at this moment, someone is discovering the future, doing research that tomorrow will save lives, change medicine, and revolutionize science. And if all this seems familiar, it's because you've already seen it. From Tolkien to Harry Potter, Oxford is the muse that inspires dreams. For this reason, it's not just a university, but it's the place where the impossible becomes reality. Cairngorms National Park. Imagine a wilderness as large as Luxembourg, where you can walk for days without meeting a living soul. The Cairngorms are the last bastion of wild Scotland, a subarctic plateau where creatures still live that elsewhere are only memories, like lynx, wildcats, and sea eagles. Four of Scotland's 5 highest mountains are found here, including Cairngorm, which gives the park its name. These peaks, shaped by millennial glaciation, hide glacial cirques where snow resists until summer. There are also the ancient Caledonian pines, which are the survivors of the original Scottish forest and create natural habitats inhabited by red squirrels and deer. And it is precisely the fauna that makes this place unique. The reindeer, reintroduced in the 1950s, graze today on the highlands like in the times of the Ice Age. In moonless nights, furthermore, it is said that you can still hear the howl of ghost wolves, extinct now for centuries, but never forgotten by these mountains that guard the secrets of ancient Scotland. Conwy. Suspended between sky and sea, Conwy Castle is a medieval fortress that dominates the estuary like a guardian. Built in just 4 years by Edward I in 1283, this masterpiece of medieval military architecture counts 8 massive towers, connected by walls that embrace the town below. Walking along the ramparts means traveling back 700 years, when archers and knights controlled every movement in the harbor. The walled town of Conwy, furthermore, is one of the best preserved in Europe, with its stone streets that lead to the smallest house in Great Britain, just 1.8 meters wide. From the castle, you can also admire Telford's suspension bridge, an engineering work from 1826 that looks like a steel jewel left above the waters. Cambridge. On the other side of England rises Oxford's eternal rival, and it's Cambridge, where genius flows like the River Cam. Its waters caress colleges that look almost like castles, and bridges connect not only shores, but centuries of tradition. And then there are also the backs, which are lawns so green they seem painted. At the center of everything, King's College rises like a cathedral of knowledge, with its 15th century Gothic chapel that is music-made architecture. At Christmas, when the choir sings, the entire world stops to listen to those voices that cross screens and reach straight to the hearts of millions of people. But Cambridge's true magic is the minds it has forged. For example, in the Cavendish laboratory, they unveiled the secrets of DNA and opened the doors of modern physics. And today they're inventing the future with technologies that in 20 years will seem normal, but which are born right here. Glasgow. Forget the gray and industrial image of Glasgow, because today it pulses with creative energy like few cities in the world. In its streets resonate the chords of bands that made history, while colorful murals transform every corner of the city into an open-air art gallery. The majestic Gothic Cathedral of St. Mungo has dominated the city for almost 800 years. While nearby, the Victorian necropolis rises on a hill like a sort of city of the dead, with mausoleums and monuments that tell the glory of merchants of the era. But it is in the West End that Glasgow shows its most authentic face, with vintage markets, historic pubs, and the Gothic University of Glasgow, where Adam Smith studied. Finally, there is also the River Clyde, once the artery of the shipbuilding industry that built the Titanic, and which today reflects futuristic architectures. Glasgow is a city that has known how to reinvent itself without losing its working-class soul. Gower Peninsula. It was the first so-called area of outstanding natural beauty in the United Kingdom, and faces the Atlantic like a hand stretched toward the horizon. Gower Peninsula is where surf meets history, with the perfect waves of Llandudno Beach attracting surfers from all over Europe, while nearby the 3 limestone cliffs that emerge from golden sand create a postcard scenery. Here you'll find Rossili Bay, often voted among the most beautiful beaches in the world, where 5 kilometers of unspoiled sand curve in a perfect arc. The dunes behind the beach extend for kilometers, offering refuge to rare wild orchids and migratory birds, and lead to breathtaking panoramic points. At sunset, when the sun sets the horizon ablaze, Worm's Head, which is a rocky tongue accessible only at low tide, becomes the perfect stage for an unforgettable natural spectacle. Glenfinnan Viaduct. "21 stone arches curve for 380 meters across a breathtaking valley." The Glenfinnan Viaduct is the jewel of the West Highland Line, one of the world's most spectacular railways that winds for 264 kilometers through the wildest Scottish Highlands. This railway line, completed in 1901, represents a miracle of Victorian engineering that transformed an impassable territory into a corridor of unique beauty in the world. Its builders had to face peat bogs, mountains, and lakes, using only cement, sand, and local stones to create a structure that blends perfectly with the landscape. The Glenfinnan area, furthermore, is famous for the viaduct made famous by Harry Potter, where the cinematic Hogwarts Express passes, which offers passengers a marvelous spectacle that unites history and nature. In fact, under the arches, Loch Shiel stretches toward the horizon, while around the highlands draw majestic profiles that lose themselves in the mist of distant peaks. Portrush. The northern coast of Northern Ireland hosts a seaside town where families have been vacationing for more than 150 years. Portrush, however, doesn't live just in summer, but pulses year-round as the gateway to the Giant's Causeway. The city's 3 beaches extend for kilometers, also attracting surfers who challenge Atlantic waves in every season. These beaches, besides being a paradise for sea lovers, also offer enchanting panoramic walks, where the blue of the sea blends with the horizon, giving visitors moments of peace and connection with the wild nature of this fascinating coast. And then there's also Barry's Amusement Park, which resists the digital era with vintage rides that continue to entertain children and adults. Liverpool. This is Liverpool, where 2 love stories have changed the world. and they are the one with the sea and the one with music. The waterfront, UNESCO heritage, tells of when Liverpool was the door of the British Empire, with ships that departed to conquer oceans and riches that returned home. But then in the 60s, four boys changed everything. The Beatles were born here at the Cavern Club, transforming Liverpool into the world capital of music. Today that club is a temple and the Beatles Museum a pilgrimage. There's also Albert Dock, which guards the memories of a city that gave its children to the world, and the world to its children. Tate Liverpool instead demonstrates that this city doesn't live only in the past, but that it is a cultural laboratory that continues to create, to inspire, to make people dream. In short, Liverpool is a symphony that never stops playing. Loch Lomond. A mirror of water that has made generations of Scots and travelers fall in love. Loch Lomond is Britain's largest lake by surface area, with 71 square kilometers of fresh water set between gentle hills and dramatic mountains. But its true magic lies in the 38 islands, scattered like confetti on its surface. Inchmurren, the largest island, hosts castle ruins and deer that swim from one shore to another, while in the waters live salmon and trout that always attract fishermen. The eastern shore is gentle and accessible, perfect for picnics and walks, while the western one becomes wild with mountains that dive directly into the water. The lake marks the border between the lowlands and the highlands. Therefore, passing through here means entering another Scotland, that of legends and clans. It is no coincidence that the Scots say that whoever has not seen Loch Lomond has not seen Scotland. Tenby. The pastel-colored houses overlook the harbor like in a vintage postcard, creating one of the most photographed panoramas in Wales. Tenby is a medieval walled town that rises on a limestone cliff with its 13th century walls still intact, that recalls stories of pirates and merchants. The harbor empties and fills with the tides, while North Beach and South Beach extend at the foot of the old town, separated by Castle Hill, where the remains of a Norman castle watch the marine horizon. St. Catherine's Island Fort, instead, built on a small island reachable on foot during low tide, was erected in the Napoleonic era to defend the coast from French invasions, and today offers one of the most spectacular panoramic points of the bay. Every alley in the town leads to a new discovery, with art galleries, historic pubs, and antique shops that preserve the atmosphere of a fishing village, magically remained outside of time. Manchester. Welcome to the city that invented the modern world. Manchester is where the Industrial Revolution took its first steps and forever changed human history. The canals and old cotton mills tell of when machines were born here that would transform the planet, and every brick is a piece of the revolution that created our present. But Manchester today beats a different rhythm, and it's that of football. Old Trafford and Etihad Stadium aren't just stadiums, but they're modern cathedrals where millions of hearts pulse in unison. In the northern quarter instead, the city's creative soul explodes in murals, underground cafes, and vintage shops. It's here that Manchester shows its most authentic face, rebellious, innovative, always a step ahead. And finally, walking through the city center streets, among glass skyscrapers and designer shops, you understand that Manchester continues to reinvent itself. From the boutiques of King Street to the alternative markets, this city has one thing in its DNA: changing the world. Llandudno. Welcome to the Queen of Welsh seaside resorts, where Victorian elegance meets modern fun. Llandudno nestles in a perfect bay between two limestone promontories, Great Orme and Little Orme. The Great Orme promontory, which means Great Sea Serpent, unfolds for 207 meters, offering incredible views of the coast. The Victorian Pier extends for 700 meters into the Irish Sea and is a walkway of wrought iron and wood where time flows between ice cream, fish and chips, and the sound of waves. The Crescent Beach, furthermore, is protected from Atlantic winds, making it perfect for families with children. Finally, it should be remembered that this city is linked to the story of Alice's adventures in Wonderland. As the real Alice, who was Alice Little, spent her summer holidays here, and today a statue of the White Rabbit stands on the promenade. Castle Combe. Time here stopped in the 15th century. Castle Combe hides in a Wiltshire valley, where every stone tells stories of wool merchants who built the village's wealth. The honey-colored stone houses line streets that have seen no changes for over 500 years, while a brook crosses the center with a bridge that locals must cross to reach St. Andrew's Church. Visitors often discover that Hollywood has chosen this village as a set for period films, as no modern element disturbs the medieval atmosphere. The market that once dominated the central square has left behind a stone cross, a meeting point for tours exploring the surroundings. During autumn, leaves fall on the cobblestone streets, creating a natural carpet that crunches underfoot, while the pubs still serve craft beer in buildings that are more than 200 years old, with village life flowing at the slow rhythm of the seasons. Pembrokeshire coast. Imagine 186 kilometers of wild coast, where the Atlantic Ocean has sculpted masterpieces in rock. The golden cliffs of Pembrokeshire plunge into turquoise waters, creating hidden bays that seem straight out of an adventure film. Here, gray seals sunbathe on boulders, unaware of kayakers who navigate silently between the waves. The Pembrokeshire Coast Path, which is a coastal trail that embraces the entire peninsula, leads through fishing villages where time seems to have stopped in the 19th century. The colorful houses of Tenby, instead, reflect in the sea, while puffins, which are those charming birds with colorful beaks, nest on offshore islands. The magic of this place is that every bay tells a different story, also thanks to Norman castles that rise on promontories, witnesses to battles that shaped Welsh history. Beebury. There is certainly a reason if William Morris defined this corner of Gloucestershire as the most beautiful village in England. Arlington Row, which is the row of 14th century stone cottages, has become the icon of the most photographed British countryside in the world. These ancient weavers' dwellings, with their golden thatch roofs and honey-colored stone walls, are reflected in the waters of the River Colne, while cottage gardens explode with English roses and lavender that can be glimpsed beyond the dry stone walls. The narrow streets wind between meadows where Cotswold sheep graze peacefully, while weeping willows caress the stream water. There is also the Norman Church of St. Mary that watches over this bucolic paradise, where time seems to flow at the rhythm of the seasons. Here, every wooden gate, every smoking chimney, every flowered flower bed composes a symphony of serenity that represents the purest essence of rural England. Isle of Islay. Welcome to the Mecca of Scottish whiskey. Islay is an Inner Hebrides island that hosts 9 distilleries in just 620 square kilometers. Here, whiskey has a flavor that divides the world between those who love it and those who hate it, and precisely for this reason, the island's distilleries produce some of the most characteristic whiskeys ever. Their secret is peat, that fossil fuel that is burned to dry malted barley, giving the distillate unmistakable smoky notes. Furthermore, the coast hosts 20,000 wild geese that arrive from the Arctic every winter, creating an extraordinary natural spectacle. Continuing, the island has a population of only 3,000 inhabitants, but during the annual Whiskey Festival, thousands of enthusiasts arrive from all over the world, and for a week it becomes incredibly lively and deafening. Concluding this visual journey through the United Kingdom, we have moved from the charm of its villages to the cities and most celebrated landscapes, discovering together not only places, but also curiosities that make every corner of this country unique. We hope that the images and stories told have enriched your knowledge and stimulated the desire to personally explore the varied beauty of this nation.